watching or listening to Purham and Associates. For more information, go to www.rpurham.com. Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Purham and Associates. I'm your host, Randy Purham. Hey, we got a very special uh, day for you all today. A lot's going on this week, but what week is not having a lot going on, right? But you know the drill. Hey, we got a very special guest with us today, and I'm excited to talk with him today because he's a very special guy, and a lot of you know him out there already, and I'm excited to talk with him today because he got some stories for us, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor actually, and to have none other than Stewart Rhodes. He is a U.S. Army Airborne disabled veteran. I say who? Thank you for your service. Ex-firefighter, Yale law graduate, worked on D.C. staff of Congressman Ron Paul. He's clerked for the Arizona Supreme Court. He's founder of Oath Keepers, Association of Military Police Firefighters, EMS, and has over 40,000 members at his peak. He's a J6 political prisoner, sentenced to 18 years, and he was commuted by President Trump. Praying for a full pardon currently, and now he is a spokesman for Condemned USA. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also, we're going to get into all this though, but you can also follow him on Rumble at OK Stewart Rhodes, and check out the website, check out his Substack, Stewart Rhodes on Substack. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to get into it, so you sit back and enjoy. Stewart, good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Living a legend, living a legend. Hey, airborne, huh?
Yes, sir.
chemical myself. So,
Right. Oh man, those suits. I don't envy you wearing
yeah, I know,
those
right?
ridiculous friggin' suits.
Yeah. Went from the mop gear to the JS list, and I said, okay, what's coming next? And then they came out with the damn hazmat suits, and I was like, okay, time for me to retire.
Yeah,
So,
I'll pass on all of that.
yeah. I didn't jump out of planes. I refused. I was like, no, no. But when I was stationed in Alaska, I was in an airborne unit. My company, my chemical company, was all airborne, and
Okay.
I was one of the few that was not airborne out in the
Right.
company. I was like, no. It's like you gotta be airborne to be assigned to this company. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not doing
Not doing
it. The battalion was airborne. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. No, I don't care.
it.
Send me somewhere else.
That's just
Bye.
just not your thing, huh?
Nah, I just never see the purpose of it. And
Right.
thank
Right.
God.
Well, that's the old joke, right? Why would you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
Airplane,
Right.
exactly. That was my whole
Yeah.
thing. It was like, for what? Why?
Makes no
No.
sense.
Yep. No. I'm good.
It's a lot of fun though.
Yeah. I'm
It's a
sure
lot
it
of fun
was.
till that last one. That last one wasn't so fun.
Yeah, I did a few of the recovery ops, out there in Alaska with the guys, when they did their jumps and going out there in the
Okay.
trucks and helping them recover their chutes and all that. I'm just like, yeah, better than me. A couple of guys up in
Right.
the trees and stuff. getting
That's
getting
how
the
I got
ladder,
hurt.
yeah, getting the
Yeah.
ladder and cutting them down and stuff. Yeah, it was
Right.
fun times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuart, I'm gonna play this video real quick because I want to open up our conversation with this right here. So, ladies and
All right,
gentlemen,
let's do it.
check this out right here, and y'all will understand. For those who don't know who Stewart is, you're about to get a crash course.
To some breaking news and the release of Texan Stewart Rhodes from prison. Rhodes is founder of the Oath Keepers, who is from Granbury. He was sentenced to 18 years after his conviction that he was in on the plan that led to the January 6th attack on the Capitol in 2021. His sentence was among the toughest of those convicted in the Capitol riot. This was the scene outside of the Washington, D.C. jail late last night when several of the January 6th inmates walked out after President Trump commuted their sentences. The president signed an order dismissing the cases against more than 1,500 people charged with federal crimes in the attack on the Capitol.
Stuart, were you in on a plan, a conspiracy to attack the Capitol? Because
No, and that's what's kind of that's what's so hilarious about that is that I was convicted of seditious conspiracy, but that was based on nothing but my free speech, nothing to do with any. They found no smoking gun plans, no evidence of me directing anyone to go inside the Capitol or anything. That's the false narrative being used by the media. So even though the jury convicted me just because I wrote open letters to President Trump, encouraging him to invoke the Insurrection Act and use his power to declassify to expose corrupt elites. That's what I was telling them to do,
yeah,
and they took that as in their mind that's a conspiracy. If you challenge the election, they think you're involved in an illegal conspiracy to overthrow democracy just by challenging an obviously illegal and unconstitutional election.
wow,
That's the reality on the ground in front of that jury. We walked in there, we knew that there's no way we're going to get a fair trial in Washington D.C. And all of our motions for venue change were denied because they didn't want a precedent set that President Trump could use because they were planning on putting him on trial too, right? In D.C., he was
mm,
charged in D.C. also, so they didn't want a precedent set of anyone getting venue change that he could point to. So all of us were denied venue change, even though the judges described Washington D.C. and all of its residents as the victims of J6. They insisted on drawing the jury pool from the victim pool, right? It's like if you were accused of robbing a Walmart and then they went and they drew the jury from all the people that were in the Walmart that
in
night.
Walmart,
It's
yeah,
obviously not a fair jury. So
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
it's just all complete nonsense. It's all the false narrative that they created to try to keep President Trump from being able to serve in the White House again. Make him ineligible under the 14th Amendment if they could disqualify him, or put him in prison,
mm,
or make him unelectable in the eyes of the public. And all of that failed.
yeah,
So
yeah,
what I truly believe this: what man means for evil, God will use for good. And
mm-hmm.
that's what happened with President Trump. That's what they
Yeah,
that's why they tried to kill him twice.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. And it was interesting that they were pinning all these trumped up, no pun intended there, trumped up
Right,
charges
right.
on,
Yeah,
on all on all you guys, and it's just like it was like, huh?
right,
Conspiracy. And you're watching the footage. For those that was actually watching like real time on J6, the footage of the guards, the Capitol Police, opening up the doors, escorting you guys
right.
through, and just like it was like, oh hey, welcome to the Capitol. It's your first time here. Oh, come on, let me show you around.
Come on in. Yeah,
Yeah. And then so
right,
it's like you're under arrest. It's like, huh, what? And you're getting all these sentences and everything, and it's like, yeah, this is gonna get thrown out. And then all of a sudden, it's like, no, they're getting sentenced. They're getting put in prison. And so here
right,
we are, and now President Trump is, reelected, and he commutes everybody. He commutes everybody's sentences and pardons and all that
right.
good stuff. And people are like losing their mind. It's like, look at what happened. Look at how that went down. It was only right that he did this, And so
Oh
I'm
yeah,
still I'm
it was
still
an
having
absolute
arguments.
injustice.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah,
having arguments about this. To this matter of fact, just yesterday, I responded to some crazy liberal talking about some. It was a totally unrelated post, and she
right,
she was like having TDS and was like, "You elected a felon. You elected a felon, and
right,
he pardoned all of the J6ers." And it was like, this post has nothing to do with J6, but since you wanted to go there,
right.
but anyways,
Yeah, they're trying to use that against him now. It's like whenever like when I first got out. I went straight to the DC jail because they were slow walking some of the guys, not
Yeah.
releasing them right away. So I went and
Yeah, I
joined the
remember.
protest, helped get the other guys out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had an oath keeper, Jeremy Brown, a special forces veteran from Florida. They were asserting that they planted grenades on the guy. That's what they did. They did the same thing that they did at Mar-a-Lago. They raided his house in Florida in relation to him being at J6. He didn't even go inside the Capitol. He was just outside. We were there to do security. That's what we were there to do that day. Was security, volunteer security, for two permitted events on Capitol grounds. One was for Latinos for Trump in what's known as Area 7 next to the Senate office buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was for Ali Alexander's Stop the Steal rally right outside the East Steps. That's why we were there. So this one oath keeper, for example, Jeremy Brown, he's pardoned by President Trump, but when they raided his house, just like at Mar-a-Lago, on the way into his house, they turned off all of his security cameras. The FBI did. And then they found two grenades that had no fingerprints from him, no DNA from him, no fibers from him or his dogs. In other words, they just planted evidence to get revenge on him
Wow.
he was a whistleblower against the attempt by DHS to recruit him to be a paid informant against Oath Keepers,
Mm-hmm.
and he
Mm-hmm.
refused to do it. And he actually recorded the interview and put it out to the public. And so, for revenge for that, out of the gate, we were dealing with that they were not honoring President Trump's intent for the
Yeah.
pardons, and they were trying to keep these guys in jail.
That's crazy as hell. And, I want to back up real quick on something you said there because that was actually going to be my next question to you was what brought you and the Oath Keepers, and I want to get into what is the Oath Keepers next, but
Right.
what brought you you and the guys to DC that day? I know you mentioned you was pulling security, but
Yeah, we were there.
go ahead
Right.
and get into that.
Yeah, we were there to do security as we had done at the big rallies in November and December.
Mm,
And that's an important point to make is that in November they had a massive rally in DC, and in that rally they had multiple rallies. They had multiple permitted events all around the Capitol in November and December and January. So the pattern was the same. People marched from a big rally in Freedom Plaza. This is back in November, and Alex Jones led this march towards the Capitol, and they went and they filled the street between the Capitol and the Supreme Court, and they held another event there that was also permitted. So that's the pattern: is to go
mm-hmm.
from the Freedom Plaza, march to the Capitol, hold additional rallies. That was done in November and December, and J6 in January was no different. There were permitted events all around the Capitol. I believe at least 7 permits were pulled for events around the Capitol that were given out. And so it wasn't like no one was going to go near the Capitol. They were all going to be down there at the ellipse at President Trump's rally until he suddenly told them to go to the Capitol. That's the narrative that's spun out in the media. It's just not, that's just false.
Mm-hmm.
They were already planning on going from the ellipse rally to the Capitol for additional rallies and protests all around the Capitol, just as they had done back in November and December. No different. So it's
Mm-hmm.
complete nonsense for everyone to say that, well, they only went there because President Trump told them to. When you go back and listen to what he says, he didn't
Yeah.
say, now I want you to go to the Capitol. He said,
Yeah.
now you're going to be going to the Capitol, because he knew they were already planning on
Plan,
going there.
plan on going.
I mean,
Exactly.
there were
Yeah.
members of Congress who were scheduled to speak at Ali Alexander's event. Martin
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Greene, Josh Hawley, a bunch of them were going to speak.
Yeah.
So this was already planned. I mean, not by President Trump, but planned by activists and planned by members of Congress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm aware of that as well. And you're right. That was the narrative. It's like, oh, he told him to go to the Capitol and storm the Capitol, and
Right,
it's like,
right.
well, if you actually look at the timestamps and you look at the footage of everything that was going on, like right towards like midway of his speech, the Capitol was already being breached, and everybody that was at the ellipse, they wasn't even aware of because
Right.
from the ellipse to the Capitol itself to the Capitol grounds, it's approximately like 1,000 yards or so. It's like a 2 block equivalent walk, and so y'all didn't even know that the Capitol was already being breached on the east side. So and it was like crazy because I was getting the real time news because I had a buddy that was there and he was like, man, the Capitol is already being breached. Like, there's something's going on. It's a riot going on up here. And so,
Right.
now you guys that was at the ellipse are like heading over there, and the barricades are up. But then the Capitol Police are like opening up the barricades, and
Yeah.
they start pumping the crowd with the
And
grenade,
that's
the smoke grenades,
another
and it's
important point.
crazy.
In November and December, the perimeter around the building was basically the building itself.
Yeah.
They in January the 6th, they expanded the perimeter like way out beyond what it had been in November and
Mm-hmm.
December.
Mm-hmm.
How is a person who's at President Trump's rally at the Ellipse, how are they supposed to know that they've expanded this perimeter like out about 10 times as big as it was in November and December? So by the time they get there, there's no more bike racks in the way, no signs saying you can't
Yeah.
come on this property. All they know is it's just like in November and December. Here we are on the lawn again.
Yeah.
But they were charged for being on restricted grounds, even though they didn't even realize it was restricted.
It's
Because
restricted.
by the
Yeah.
time they got there was nothing telling them so. Same with the doors being open. If someone else broke a window and then went inside and opened a door and opened a
Mm.
bunch of doors for people to walk through, but you're at the back of the crowd and you walk up and all you see is open doors, people walking in, and cops just standing there
Yep.
or giving people fist bumps. How do you know you're not
Yeah.
supposed to go
Exactly.
inside? You don't. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know,
Yep.
right?
It's crazy. It was crazy. Like I said, I was watching it. I was watching it real time as it was happening,
Right.
and not even through like mainstream media. Like I said, I had buddies that was like Facebook Live in it,
Right.
and on not Facebook Live, but Messenger. Like we was like talking as they was doing
Right.
stuff, and because I was doing media coverage, and I was just like, this shit is crazy, and
Right.
it was
Well,
like,
it's really weird about it. Like I didn't even go inside. I was standing outside.
yeah,
I was trying to find my security teams to keep them from getting into. I knew what was going on the west side as far as people getting in fights with some of the cops. I didn't want them involved in that. I had no idea anyone had gone inside. I didn't realize that there were Trump supporters that had been inside until I saw them walking up a ramp from down below
mm,
on the north end of the Capitol, a ramp that came out, an exit. And I was like, oh man, that's when I realized that people had actually gone inside.
side,
And I had
yeah,
no idea. I had no idea any of my Oath Keeper volunteers had gone inside until later when they walked up to me and told me they had gone inside. And
mm,
so,
yeah,
and I said, hey, that was stupid. Not because they did anything wrong, but it was
right.
because I knew we'd be targeted. That's why I
Yeah.
said that.
Now, let everybody know who are the Oath Keepers, because a lot of people conflate, and I've been hearing this conversation as well. Because I know Enrique Tarrio as well, and
Right.
cool guy, cool brother, cool brother.
I'm going to see him today. In fact, I'm
Oh
driving down
really?
to Miami to do it. Yeah, we're going to do a sit
Oh
down
man.
podcast interview. Yeah.
Tell him I say
Yeah.
what's up. Tell him I say what's up. But
Okay.
so a lot of people confuse, the Oath Keepers with the Proud Boys, and
Cowboys. Right.
it's like no, those are two separate groups. So
Right.
explain to everybody who the Oath Keepers are.
So Oath Keepers, I started Oath Keepers in 2009. I was a paratrooper in the Army and a volunteer firefighter. And the big wake up call for a lot of us was what we saw during Hurricane Katrina, where you saw, police officers being brought from all over the United States to help after
Mm,
the hurricane. And then you had illegal and unconstitutional orders to disarm the people being given by the mayor and the police chief of New Orleans. And unfortunately, a lot of these police officers just went along with that. A blatantly unconstitutional
mm-hmm.
order to confiscate guns from people who were just trying to protect their own homes from looters. So, that was a big wake up call. We need more education in our law enforcement and also in our military. If the military,
Yeah,
like the National Guard, is going to be used domestically, they need to know where the lines are when it comes to what they can and can't do under our Bill of Rights. In the military, we're taught the laws of war, as you know. You're a veteran. We're taught the laws of war and what's a lawful and unlawful order under the laws of war,
mm-hmm.
but they're not taught the Constitution. And so when you're being used domestically, now you're going up against the constitutional rights of the American people.
Yeah,
So that was the big motivator for me for starting the organization.
mm,
But we did a lot of outreach and education, but we also did a lot of volunteer work. 14 major hurricane relief missions, including Hurricane Harvey was the first one down there in Houston.
yeah,
Then also Puerto Rico. We were in Puerto Rico for 3 weeks when they had their big hurricane there that devastated the island. So we were all over the country, but also security, starting with Trump's inauguration. We were doing security in D.C. for Trump's inauguration,
mm,
doing escorts in the streets because Antifa likes to attack,
yeah,
disabled veterans, families, women with kids. That anyone that's weak in their eyes, that's what they like to attack. And so
mm,
out of the gate, we saw Antifa rise up in the streets trying to terrorize Trump supporters, acting like perfect fascists, running around and
mm-hmm.
intimidating people and attacking people. And so, starting after the inauguration, Berkeley was the next big one. Downtown Berkeley and the Martin Luther King Park. in downtown Berkeley. We held two different rallies we protected. And that's where we first started working with Proud Boys. They came in also and helped protect. And so we, over the years, we worked together many, many times. Portland, Oregon, Berkeley, California, just all over the country,
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. many times. So we're different organizations, but oftentimes the same mission. We're trying to protect people. They do the same thing,
Yep.
protecting people against Antifa. That's why we're hated by the left. We were able to
Mm,
successfully shut down Antifa in the streets many, many times. They could never disrupt an event we were protecting or harm anybody we were protecting. We had a 100% success record.
that's good. That's good. And thank you for explaining and clarifying for the audience there, because like I said, a lot of people conflate and mix the two groups up. Although
Yeah,
some know that
yeah,
there's a difference, but there's some that
yeah.
that
There's a
confuse.
difference. I mean, the Proud Boys. Some of them are veterans,
Hmm.
but they're just street fighters, man. They want to go out there, and I don't blame them. They want to go out there
Yeah,
and
yeah,
get
yeah.
after it with
Yeah,
Antifa.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, I remember watching them get into a scuffle with some of the Antifa guys during the BLM protests when they was out there spray painting the streets in DC.
right,
They snatched the flags down, and it was yeah, that was funny.
right, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was pretty hilarious. But so talk to us about your Give Send Go. I had, ladies and gentlemen, for those that are listening and not actually watching, that's tuned in on Substack and Spotify. GiveSendGo.com/GAF5B or GAF5B. GAF5B is his Give Send Go. Talk to us about your Give Send Go.
Yeah, it's just my give send go I've had up. When I was in prison, we used that for commissary money, and to be able to buy better food. But now that I'm out, just rebuilding my life,
Yeah.
So almost all of us J6s have a give send go, and I
Mhm.
encourage folks to help other J6s too. But we all need it, we can all use a shot in the arm to help us rebuild,
Yeah,
get our
absolutely.
lives reestablished. You lose everything when your government comes after you like that.
Mhm.
In my case, and many of us, I was in solitary confinement from the day of my arrest. I was denied pretrial release. This is an important point for Americans to understand: is that you're supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, but in many ways, Pelosi had it correct. You have a chance to prove your innocence when they finally put you on trial, but until then, they presume you to be guilty. And so
Mhm.
we were held. I was held in solitary confinement for over a year, including pretrial, like 9 months of pretrial detention before my trial, and then during my trial, then after my trial, held in solitary confinement, make it as difficult as possible for you to defend yourself and try to break you. They try to
Mhm.
coerce us into pleading guilty to a crime we did not commit, and also to turn against President Trump and bear false witness against him.
Mhm.
And we refused, so we went to trial. You know,
That's good. That's good. I want to back up real quick. I meant to ask you at the after the play of this video. What was going through your mind when you got word that you was being released? Because you was probably already sitting in your cell, like you was already
oh
probably
yeah,
resolved with, I'm in here for 18 years. Let me get comfortable. Let me start let me get a pen and pad, and let me just
right. I
relax.
mean, I
And
had to
I'm in
have
here now.
the. It's a trippy mindset because you like with the prison. I consider myself a prisoner of war.
Yeah.
And I knew from my training in the military that the prisoners of war who thought, "Oh, we'll be home by Christmas," and then they weren't, they were devastated. And
Hmm.
so that's why, in my mind, I said, "Okay, I'm committed. I'm just in my head. In my head, I'm going to do 18 years."
Yeah.
But I knew in my heart that wasn't going to happen. I knew that there's no way I was going to spend 18 years behind bars. I was very confident that one way or another that was not going to happen. I had faith. So
Yeah.
that's the word. You have to be ready for the worst, but you want to keep praying and have faith that the best is going to happen. And so when President Trump was shot and the reaction in my unit was amazing. All the guys in the unit were like, "Damn, man!" They pumped their fists in the air and said, "Trump's a legit OG." That he reacted like a warrior. No, they were. That's the
Hmm.
best. That's the best thing. That's the best compliment you can get in prison,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So what they saw though was his warrior spirit. He
Yeah.
reacted like a warrior, reacted like a stud,
Yep.
and that's when I knew he had the election won because
Yeah.
I think across the country,
Yeah.
that's where he proved
Exactly.
up.
Yep.
It's like he's not just a tough talker. The man's got heart of the lion.
Yep.
So yeah,
That's
and that's why I
true.
got this tattoo right here. If you see that one there, that's my Trump tattoo.
Oh,
Can you see
okay.
that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
see. Right. There it is. See
Oh,
that?
nice. Yeah.
I'm going the right way. There it is. I got that after he got shot. I got that when I was in prison.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah,
But that was the, and he knows God saved his life.
yeah.
He was saved. It was divine intervention. God saved his life, and he knows that
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important for us to realize that we have a chance,
Yeah.
but we have to make sure we keep pushing. We
That's
take to the
true.
high ground, but you can't stop. You got to push them into the sea. You got to
Yeah.
keep going.
That's that. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. You gotta, you can't give up. No matter what adversities you face, and what setbacks you may come
Right.
across, you just gotta keep fighting and keep pushing. And I want to get that was my next question to you on that is are the Oath Keepers, are y'all still active and still together, still doing things?
Well, they're still out there. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with that because we're still involved in lawsuits. There
Okay.
were lawsuits. I mean, the lawfare continues. There were
Yeah.
criminal lawfare, but there's also civil lawfare. They sued like members of Congress, starting with Benny Thompson. He was the first one. On February
Hmm.
16, 2021, Benny Thompson and other members of Congress sued President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, alleging a conspiracy to attack the Capitol. This is just weeks after J6. So before any investigation could have possibly been done, they already had the narrative set that President Trump, Giuliani, Oath Keepers and Proud Boys all conspired. That's the false narrative from the outset. And everything that since then has been like kabuki theater, make that true. Like the J6 Select Committee hearings,
Yeah.
public dog and pony show, all these prosecutions are all to support that false narrative. So the lawsuits are the same way. There's still a lawsuit by members of Congress and a lawsuit by Capitol Police officers that were organized by a bunch of lefty lawyers. It's all the same people,
Mm.
including the ADL. Anti Defamation League
Yeah.
jumped in
Okay.
there
Yeah.
too. So it's the same smear that President Trump was violating the KKK Act, that they were trying to disenfranchise black voters. Is what they that's the smear from the outset. So Benny Thompson gets on TV. He's got the chairman of the NAACP with him, standing there suing us, saying that they're we were violating the KKK Act. We were trying to intimidate voters like we're the friggin' Klan. It's just ridiculous nonsense. That's that's the false narrative, and it continues on. So I have to see what happens with those lawsuits and figure out what I want to do
Yeah.
when it comes to Oath Keepers 2.0. So
Yeah. It's
stay tuned. I got plans.
okay. Okay. I'm glad to hear that. And
Yeah.
it's interesting you said Benny Thompson because a buddy of mine, Brian Flowers, he ran for Congress, and we both ran for Congress at the same time in our 2020 20 in 2022. We both ran for Congress. He ran against Benny Thompson, and
Oh yeah.
he was it was an uphill battle for him, man.
Right.
He
Right.
called me. He was like, man, that son of a.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
I
I'm
hear
like,
stories from guys in Mississippi that Benny Thompson's pretty dirty,
yeah, he
like
is.
big time.
He
Yeah.
is.
Organized
He is.
crime connected. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. And so, but Brian he did really well. But he
Did
just
he?
couldn't. He just couldn't. Overcome that swamp and the like
Right.
you said, the organized crime. He just couldn't overcome that. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
call. I'm gonna give him a call. Now that you mentioned, I'm gonna call him and see if he's gonna run again. Because he had a it was a that was a good race. That was a good race that he ran. The So talk to us about Condemned USA. You're the spokesman for that organization.
Yes.
What is that? Who are they, and what are y'all doing there?
So Condemned USA was started by Trennis Evans, another J6 defendant.
Yeah,
He
I
was
know
hit with a
Trinus.
1512 obstruction charge. Thankfully Supreme Court knocked that one out. But he was facing 20 years in prison himself. And so he started Condemned USA to help other J6ers. And they helped when I was in. In fact, one of their employees came pick me up from prison when I got out.
Hmm.
So they do good work, legal aid, and it's about political prisoners. Like right now, Tina Peters, for example, in Colorado, that's the election worker who is
Hmm.
still being held 9 years in prison under Colorado law. So wherever the Democrats, this is sad but true, but wherever they're in power, they're going to use law against their political opponents, try to silence them and suppress them. And if you challenge the election, especially if you challenge a fraudulent election, they want to accuse you of what they're doing. It's total
Yeah.
projection. Accuse you of tampering with the election, and they have Tina Peters in prison now for that. So we're trying to get that removed to federal court. If we get it removed to federal court, then it can be dismissed. It's the
Mm,
same kind of nonsense they did to President Trump in New York. They're using the state courts as their weapon of choice. If they don't have the federal courts available, they'll try to use the state courts, and that's what they're doing.
mm.
So, sadly, anywhere where they're in power, look at Austin. You got Austin, Texas. That was that one started down there, Perry. He was just defending himself against a guy with an AK-47. Remember that during
Yep.
that
Yep.
BLM protest?
Yep.
So he's got a white dude with an AK-47 pointed at him, and he did what any man would do if you're armed. You have to shoot the guy because you don't know, you can't wait for him to pull the trigger.
Hmm.
So he just
Exactly.
defended himself, but he was found guilty of murder in Austin, and now you got Austin police officers on trial, right? And
Yep.
they'll start in the next few days, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
So you got several
Thanks
police
to
officers.
DA Garza.
Right, exactly.
Jose,
So yeah, so
Jose
you
Garza.
got upside down bizarro world. If you defend
Yeah.
yourself, you go
It's
to
crazy.
prison. You know,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
do if you're a cop, and hey, I don't know the details, but my guess is these officers are being persecuted because they happen to be going up against BLM. And so if you go up against BLM, if you're a police officer, you're going to be assumed guilty, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and the other thing is, Jose Garza down here in Austin, the DA, he's one of the George Soros funded DAs. So
right, yeah,
so that right there, just tells you everything that you need to know right out the gate. That um, he's anti-police anyway. So no matter
right.
the cops can be pro BLM, and they sneeze wrong, he's coming after them. So it's just
That's what's
crazy.
so weird about the Capitol thing. It's like across the country, all through 2020 and up until today, the left is, they hate police officers and want to, defund the police and disband the
Hmm.
police, unless it's the Capitol Police. Then those police officers
Yeah,
are angels and
angels.
saints,
Yeah,
and how
yeah,
dare you even look sideways at them? You were, all those poor police officers that were assaulted that day.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
that they don't want to talk about the police that were using excessive force,
Hmm.
hitting people in the head with clubs, shooting less lethal munitions, but right, point blank in their face, which is
Yeah,
against their training. So a
right.
lot of that happened that day. That's how you
Yeah.
get Trump supporters who are overwhelmingly pro police. How do you get them to fight cops? You have the cops use excessive force.
Hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
And the simple fact that a lot of there were in like you just said, informants embedded in there, so there was a lot of corruption within the force,
Right.
that was going on there. So you could be pro police, and all that, and still be against corruption within the police. So
Oh yeah. Well, you have to be.
you find yourself fighting with corrupt cops. 'Cause you're fighting. It is what it is. You're like, I'm
Right.
pro police, but I'm still fight a corrupt cop. At the end of the day,
Right. Well, if you see a police officer, for example, hitting an unconscious woman in the head with a club.
yeah,
That's what happened to Sam Boylan. She was
yeah.
laying unconscious on the ground,
Hmm.
and then one of the Capitol Police officers, a female officer, is hitting her in the head over and over again with a wooden
Yeah,
club. Any of us would stop that. You have to.
exactly.
Then you're charged with assaulting a police officer. I mean, I didn't even touch a cop that day.
Yeah.
They targeted me because I was the founder of Oath Keepers.
Hmm.
But I'm just saying, in defense of the guys that did wind up mixing up with the cops, it's like, okay, well, what were they doing?
Yeah,
You know.
and I believe
So, and the, but going back to your point earlier, when someone like I was in the hallways of Congress because I was going down there to advocate for Jeremy Brown's release, and
Mhm.
so I was meeting with members of Congress. Then I got mobbed by the media down in the tunnel, but outside the cafeteria in the Capitol. It's kind of funny. So I'm standing there with Ivan Raiklin. I don't know if you know Ivan, but
Mm-mm.
he's a yeah he's a special forces retired. We went there together to go meet with members of Congress about getting Jeremy Brown released. So,
Okay.
but the media mobbed us, and so we held court for about an hour. Just told them, hey, the election was stolen. Here's the COVID-19 was used. I call it the COVID coup. It was used to
Yeah.
justify the blatant violation of state election laws,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the swing states, and that made it illegal under Article Two. It made it unconstitutional. So just we just held court for an hour. But this one reporter's like, "What do you say to the officers that were hurt that day?" And how can you justify pardoning all these people that assaulted police officers? I said I said in this country you're presumed innocent until proven guilty in front of a jury of your peers, an impartial jury in front of a judge who's also impartial and is going to enforce all of your rights, all the rights of all your due process rights. So none of that happened for any of us. Did not have an impartial jury. We did not have impartial judges. We got no due process, and so we were never actually found guilty by an actual jury of our peers in an impartial, trial.
Mm. Yeah.
Because that never happened, we should be presumed innocent. And so President Trump is doing the right thing by enforcing the presumption of innocence and honoring the presumption of innocence by pardoning everyone or commuting everyone. So like in my case, I was commuted, not pardoned. There's 14 of us that got commutations only, unfortunately. And so we're still advocating, for ourselves to get pardons.
Okay.
But that's my answer to them. It's like, hey, if you want to get mad at somebody, go blame the DOJ for not running fair trials. That's why it's right for President Trump to reverse all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a second bite at the apple. You guys screwed up. You didn't put us on a fair trial, and so we should be set free.
Yep. Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. And congratulations. Because for anybody else around the world that has gone through something like this, they would not have gotten this opportunity. So we're in a country where you may have been wronged, but eventually you're righted. And
I hope so. I hope that's true. I mean,
yeah,
we
I
toggle
think so.
back and forth.
Yeah,
It depends on who wins the presidency. I
that's
fear
true.
that
Yeah,
you know
that's true.
if they ever get back in power again, they're gonna do all they can to destroy this country once and for all. So I really
Yeah,
don't think we really can't let them back. That's why we have to keep motivated.
yeah.
You
I
can't
agree with you
let
100%.
them take power again. You know?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because they're already telling us who they are. They already showed us who they
Yeah.
are, and they're already
Oh
letting
yeah.
us know when they come back into power what they're gonna do. They're already telling us. It's just I don't know. It's crazy. And for folks
Right.
that's out there like supporting this nonsense, you need to look in the mirror or get go find some utopia overseas somewhere and take that with you because it's
Well, if
crazy.
you love the Chinese model so much, go live in
Go live in
China for a
China.
few years. We'll
Yeah.
see how you like it.
Yeah, North Korea, go out there and hang out with Kim Jong Un, see what's up. But hey,
Yeah.
they're not gonna do it because they don't believe the stuff that they be saying. But hey, Stuart, tell people what you got coming up next and what you got going on.
Well, in Texas, if you're in the Dallas area, I'm speaking for Restore the Republic on 25th. And I think you have the address. It's a place in Little Elm. They meet for breakfast. It's early in the morning. We're looking like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning. But if you're out and about and want to come join us for that on the 25th, April 25th, please do. I'm
Yeah.
speaking there next.
Okay. Yeah, and that's ladies and gentlemen for like I said once again the listeners out there. That's gonna be you go to the website www.rtrtexas spelled out .com and you can find all the information there. What was the dates and time? You said 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the morning on April 25th,
April 25th.
Friday. Yeah,
Friday.
they meet every Friday morning. That's when they meet. So I'm
Okay.
speaking there on the 25th.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Where can people follow you and support you, sir?
So they can go to my Give Send Go. You already gave that one out. GiveSendGo.com/GAF5B, Golf Alpha Foxtrot 5 Bravo. I could definitely use a shot in the arm for that. They can go to my Rumble's OK Stewart Rhodes on Rumble. I was on X, but I'm on suspension. No, no. All I did is post advocating for the release of Jeremy Brown, but for some reason they still have me in there. I think the algorithms from old Twitter are still
Mm,
picking me up as a bad guy. So, or it could be because I'm not pardoned yet. I'm a convicted seditious conspiracist. So so
mm.
that could be that too. Well, I'm appealing that. Substack.com. I think it's /Stewart Rhodes, or yeah,
Yes.
Substack.
Hmm. Stewart
You've
Rhodes.
got it.
Yeah. StewartRhodes.substack.com.
There it is. There it
Yep.
is. Right.
I got you. Yeah. So,
Right.
hey, I appreciate you being on, brother, and be
Yeah.
safe out there. Have fun and enjoy, and see you when you get back into Texas. Because
You bet.
yeah,
I'm glad to be back. I'm in Florida right now, but I'm definitely glad to be back in Texas again, man. It felt good to have my boots on Texas soil.
yes,
So it
yes,
was
indeed.
awesome.
All right, bro. Be safe.
All right.
I'll
God
talk to
bless
you
you.
soon. God bless you too. Be
All right. Take
safe.
care.
All right.
Take care. Be safe.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye. Ladies and gentlemen, Stewart Rhodes. Once again, you check out give him some support out there to his Give Send Go. I'm gonna throw it back up here one more time. Give Send Go. patreon.com/GAF 5 Bravo. Give him some support there, help him get back on his feet, and check out also condemnedusa.org, another great organization that's helping the J6. Condemnedusa.com, not .org. Condemnedusa.com, and check out that organization as well. It's another organization that's providing legal assistance and financial support to the J6ers that were just recently pardoned and released from prison. And folks, I would tell you, you heard the stories. This is like the third or fourth J6er that I had. I had a couple of supporters of J6ers on over the last couple of years now, and it's just crazy. We live in a country where such corruption and everything else that's been going on, and how they treat American citizens. Is just mind blowing. So we gotta get their stories out there, let their voices be heard, and so this kind of thing never ever happens again in the future. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump up out of here, ladies and gentlemen, and I will catch you all on Monday, God willing. God bless. Y'all be safe, and yeah, ciao ciao. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in today. Please be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and share, and go to rpurham.com for more information. See you all soon. Take care. God bless.